Hello and welcome to Odds on Champions League match day 3. We are back to analyze the games on Tuesday and we have the last season final. We have Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, for instance. We have Álvaro Romeo. Hi, Álvaro. And Ronan to give you some tips, some information about the games. Let's hope we are as successful as in the weekend because we nailed so many ACAs, including the international ACA. Well done, guys. So we will do our best. Ask any question to Álvaro, to Ronan. Of course, tell us your tips. And now let's go on with the show. Two early kickoffs. First one is Milan-Bruges. Milan with 0 points. Remember, they lost to Liverpool, to Leverkusen. They suffer a lot in Serie A this weekend to beat Udinese down to 10 men with a goal disallowed in the very last minute. Probably they deserved the draw, but they got the 3 points, and their schedule in the Champions League is so difficult. They are traveling to the Bernabeu next, so it's a must win for the Rossoneri, Álvaro.
Yeah, this is the way I see it, and that's why I'm going to back Milan this time, because it's a must-win for them, and I know that they haven't been reliable at San Siro because, or even generally speaking, because if you take all the competitions together, they have lost as many games as they have won, 4 wins and 4 defeats. So this is not a sign of a reliable side. But little by little, Milan is climbing in Serie A. I think that they will be probably aiming to finish 4th. And in the Champions League, they had a very difficult start, having played against Liverpool and against Leverkusen. Even though Fonseca, the manager, said after the game against Leverkusen that that was probably one of the games he likes the most since they arrived. In the Champions League, Milan lately hasn't had a good run. This has to be said. They have won only 2 of the last 11 games in the Champions League, but we cannot detach all this from the caliber and the quality of the opponents, okay? Because in the last 11 games in the Champions League, they played twice against Inter in the 22-23 season, twice against Newcastle, twice against PSG, twice against Dortmund, and then Liverpool and Leverkusen this season. It's very difficult to have good numbers if you play that opposition, and I think that against Brugge, Milan is going to change a little bit the dynamic, and they are going to win because this is probably the first winnable game they've got in Europe after 18 months of encountering some of the best continental sides on their way. Milan will have to be very careful with the red cards and all that because 3 players of Milan have been sent off in the last 4 games of Milan. But, you know, I think that they can win this time. I know that Bruges, or Brugge as they call it, they got a win in the last game with a great goal from Cholis, 1-0 against Sturm Graz, but then they lost 3-0 against Dortmund. So if Milan manages to keep at bay that lovely triangle that Jutgla, Cholis and Van Aken can form, I think that they'll be favorites for this game. So AC Milan to win is the first one that comes to my mind. 150. Okay, if you want to squeeze a little bit more yield, maybe an ace and handicap minus 0.75 for AC Milan. Altogether, 160.
Prosadas is telling us Milan to win an under 3.5 goals. Marco, Milan to win an over 1.5 goals. It's true. Ronan and Dortmund won 3-0 in Belgium, but they suffered until the last 10 minutes when they could break the lock. So they are doing a decent campaign in the Champions League, actually, Bruce.
Yeah, I think they are kind of harder to beat than many might expect, and that could be a difficult problem for Milan. But like Alvaro has said, this is the match that Milan need to win because I think this is the first real test we'll see in the new Champions League format to see how teams who start badly, how they can recover and then still qualify. Whereas if you lost the first 2 games in the old Champions League kind of format, it was the death knell and maybe you were looking at the Europa League. Whereas this one, now in the new Champions League format, you lost your first 2 games. Well, that's okay. We'll go back to the drawing board. And if we can win matches like this, it can make a huge difference and help put them in a much better position. So they really need to win this one. And like Alvaro said, they will be going all out to win it. And I think many of our commenters think they will win it. And it's not really a surprise because Brugge, they've been good enough at the back, but they're not really creating a lot up forward. They've struggled to get goals, and I think they'll struggle again maybe in this one. Andreas Skov Olsen is missing with a calf injury. He'll be a big loss up front for them, and I don't think Brugge will really break down the Milan backline, because we've seen historically Milan have been very good at the back in the Champions League. So like Alvaro, I agree with Milan to win obviously, but I can't see Brugge getting anything from this one. So I think the options here are Milan to win and Brugge not to score. So AC Milan to win to 0 is one of my tips for this one. That's 2.60. But slightly safer than that is AC Milan clean sheet if you don't want to go all the way. So I think Brugge could struggle to get goals because their other forward is also struggling with fitness. So I don't really see where the goals are going to come from for them, but obviously we see where the goals will come from for Milan. Milan to win or Milan to clean sheet, I think are good value in this one.
I fear Milan in Europe, especially with these odds. They are not reliable at all. Milan to win, keep it simple for Filosofia. Also, Abubakar, great striker, Abubakar, by the way. Milan to win and Morata to score. Milan winning for 2 goals difference, or Milan half-time, full-time. It looks like everyone is trusting Milan. Let's see, and they suffered a lot at the weekend. The next game in the Louis II, Monaco Red Star. Monaco dropped points in Ligue 1, but was against Lille. They are doing also great in the Champions League, beating Barcelona, rescued a point in Zagreb after being 2-0 down, and I guess everyone, Ronan, expects them to win. It's only 1.4. Red Star is a weak team, but perhaps it's like Dinamo Zagreb, and they couldn't beat Dinamo Zagreb.
Yeah, well, that's it. You have to take each game on its merits, and Red Star have obviously been struggling, but they've been struggling in the Champions League, but perhaps not in the domestic league, because they're in the Serbian Super League. They're 6 points clear and have a game in hand after 11 games played, 10 wins and 1 draw. So they're unbeatable in the Serbian league, but Champions League is a different competition altogether, and especially on the road. Red Stars away form has been diabolical. Their last 11 away games in the Champions League, they've all been defeats, and as well as that, their last 12 games in the Champions League, they've lost 11 of those, and the other one was a draw. So this isn't a team that win a lot of games in the Champions League. Don't win a lot on the road. Whereas Monaco, they're battling in Ligue 1 to win the title from PSG. There's only second on goal difference. They had a draw, like you said, at the weekend, but they had a man sent off, and they absolutely dominated that match against Lille. Lille, I think, only had 3 shots in total in the game, and on another day, Monaco easily could have won that and taken all 3 points there. So I think Monaco should be too strong here in this one. The only thing is that they haven't been great at the back for themselves. They're 22 games without a clean sheet in the Champions League. They've scored 2 or more in the last 6 games before that, 0-0 with Lille. So I think this one could be a high-scoring match, especially looking at Red Stars' kind of domestic form. If they can carry that over into the Champions League, they've 3 or more total goals in each of their last 6 games in all competitions. So they tend to have both teams to score plenty of goals in the Champions League, even when they play in that. So I like the look of a big win for Monaco here. Monaco Asian handicap -1.5 is where you'll have to go to get some value in this one. But for overall, I think this one is just going to have plenty of goals. So total goals is my main tip for this one. Total goals over 3, obviously.
Okay, over 3.5 goals also for Filosofia. Constantinos going for Monaco to win and over. Monaco to score in both halves. You follow the trend, Alvaro?
Yeah, I do a little bit. I like one of the tips of Ronan. He said Asian handicap -1.5 for Monaco. Even Asian handicap -1.25 for Monaco. It's pretty good, I think. It pays 183, and those are the kind of odds that I'll be happy with. Monaco, they haven't lost in the Champions League so far. They saved the point against Dinamo Zagreb after trailing by 2-0. Then in the league, and they are good. I mean, they are not only second, but they are the best defense altogether with Lens. They have conceded 0.5 goals per game, which is a very good average, I would say. And then, yes, in the Champions League, their numbers can be a little bit misleading or confusing because they beat Barcelona in that way, with Barcelona just losing Eric Garcia. Was it Eric Garcia very early in the game? Yeah. And then Eric Garcia. And then, you know, against Dinamo Zagreb, they were about to screw it up and to lose 3 points, yeah, but they didn't. But the thing is that they are playing against Red Star, and I will focus all of it in the Serbian side. So basically, all the Red Star, when they travel in the Champions League, they are toothless, really. In the 21st century, they haven't recorded any away win in the Champions League group stage or the league phase. And this is something that we have to take into consideration. It doesn't seem like Red Star is significantly better to the Red Star of the previous years. Really, I mean, this on the basis of what we have seen, the sample size is small, it's still only 2 games, but, you know, they haven't won away from home in the Champions League, in the group stage or the league phase this century. And they are already 12 group stage games winless, home or away. It doesn't matter. It's true that they lost against Benfica, against Inter, but it's the fashion. They won, they lost in, their goal difference is poor, it's -5. So I have to back Monaco. I like what I saw against Barcelona. I have to say I watched that game completely, and Monaco was vibrant. They had good wingers. I think that even they had the possibility of bringing Golovin from the bench in the second half, which tells you there is a little bit of depth in there. So my bet will be that one, I said, or otherwise Monaco to win the first half offers a decent return, 191 as well. And considering how little Red Star scores away from home in the Champions League, and that Monaco is a decent scoring side, not great, but decent, both teams to score 205 is something that shouldn't go beyond our radar. But anyway, my favorite bet from the ones I said, again, Asian handicap -1.25 for Monaco.
Okay, many options to back Monaco. Monaco to score in both halves, Monaco to win the second half. El Mario Di Berlino is telling us both teams to score an over 1.5 goals. Really favorite this Monaco, this Milan, even more favorite. Arsenal, only 1.1. Arsenal to beat Shakhtar, so it's not a good idea to take those odds. They lost the first game of the season against Bournemouth with Saliba being sent off for the very first time in their career. If you want to get higher odds, Alvaro, we have Arsenal. They haven't conceded yet in the Premier League against tough opposition, Atalanta and PSG. Shakhtar, they haven't scored against Atalanta and Bologna. So a classic one is Arsenal to win 2-0.
Yeah, it could be one of those. Yeah, Arsenal to win 2-0 could be one of the interesting ones, and I think that the money is not too good there either, right? I mean, I can't remember it from the top of my head.
1.75.
Well, 1.75. It's not. It's all right, actually. I mean, personally, I prefer another one. I think that Arsenal is going to win this game properly, and they are going to win it in the fashion they tend to win games last season in the Champions League at home. I'm going to go for an Asian handicap -2.5 for Arsenal. 191. I know, sounds like a lot, but after losing against Bournemouth, they have to produce a good performance, just to forget about that. Against Bournemouth, of course, the sending off of William Saliba had an impact in the game as well. But Arsenal lately in the Champions League has been good. It's true that against Atalanta they could have lost it if it wasn't for David Raya, who, by the way, just proposed to his girlfriend apparently, but David Raya just saved a penalty against Atalanta. And then Arsenal beat PSG in impressive fashion, just being stronger than the side from Luis Enrique. Arsenal haven't conceded yet, despite the quality of their opposition. So that probably points at what you are saying. Arsenal winning 2-0 can be a good one as well. 175, why not? But I prefer to pick the following. Arsenal to win at 30 minutes is something that I like here, because I think at this time Arsenal is going to come onto the pitch, storm into the pitch and try to win the game very quickly and create many chances from the very start. Arsenal to win at 30 minutes, 167. Otherwise, Asian handicap minus 2.5 for Arsenal. Shakhtar is not a bad side. They're both technical players, very good Ukrainian players as well. But they haven't scored yet in the Champions League either. And this is something that they could end up paying at a ground like the Emirates.
Our Ukrainian friend Andrijos is telling us that Shakhtar is very bad this season, and he predicts a final score of 5-1, Ronald.
Yeah, I haven't checked the correct score for a 5-1 in this one, but that's probably because I don't think Shakhtar are going to score here, because they haven't scored yet, and they've been absolutely awful in front of goal so far. The fewest shots of any team in the Champions League phase so far with 10. And they have the fewest shots on target with 1. They've only got 1 shot on target in both their games. So that doesn't really sing to me as a team who is going to score. So I do like the value of Arsenal to win 2-0. That's how I knew it was 175, because that's one of my tips here. But yeah,
21.
Arsenal, yeah. How much is it?
Sorry, 21 is Arsenal 5-1 for...
It's not the best value for a 5-1. Yeah.
No, it's not a lot. It's not a lot, actually.
Yeah. You might be better.
Do we have an opinion on what's a good value for the 5-1? I never kept that. I never had that thought ever before.
Yeah, I mean,
what's
40,
a good value for a 5-1?
40 at least, no?
Yeah, 50. Yeah,
at least 40.
50. Yeah, Alvaro, you need to tune into some of my Bayern Munich Bundesliga predictions. I predicted 7-1 before in there.
I heard you, or the over 5.5 goals and things like this. It works. I mean, it works with Bayern in the Bundesliga, that's for sure.
Yeah, you just have to make sure they're playing Kiel. Or I think someone came out and slammed them. I think it was Lothar Matthäus. He said that Bayern Munich didn't buy Harry Kane for scoring goals against Darmstadt. Darmstadt aren't even in the Bundesliga anymore, so maybe he needs to check the table before he makes comments like that. Yeah, so I just don't see Shakhtar scoring a lot in this match. And Arsenal, like you said, they are looking to bounce back after that bad result at the weekend. They're looking to make history because they haven't kept 3 clean sheets in the Champions League since 2007, but also they haven't lost a home group stage game since 2015. So everything kind of points to Arsenal in this one. So the Shakhtar are one of only 4 teams in the Champions League who haven't scored. I don't think they're going to score here again. So that's why I'm sticking to Arsenal to win 2-0. And if you wanted to go a bit safer, both teams to score no isn't actually that much lower in this one, 1.67. It's not that much lower than Arsenal to win 2-0. So that could be an option for this one.
El Mario going for Arsenal to score over 1.5 goals. I guess it doesn't pay that much. This one. And Andrijos Sudakov to score or assist. That could be better odds. Next one, interesting game. This one, Aston Villa, Bologna, because both teams overperformed last season in the Premier League and in Serie A. And Aston Villa, they are doing great again this season, 3-1 in the Premier League against Fulham, with Emi Martinez saving another penalty. And in the Champions League, 2 games, 2 wins. Last one, remember, against Bayern Munich. Bologna, on the other hand, struggling a lot this season, new manager, and they are drawing a hell lot of games still. Ronan, to look for a win in their Champions League debut, we must say that the game at Anfield was decent. They had chances and they compete.
Yeah, they did. It wasn't as easy for Liverpool as maybe they expected, but they had chances and they competed, but they couldn't get on the score sheet. And I think that could be a problem for them in the long run this season, because like we said in the last match we were talking about, there's been only 4 teams that haven't scored in the Champions League yet this season, and Bologna are one of them. And on the other hand, Aston Villa are one of only 6 teams to not concede at the Champions League phase. So this is one where it looks like another team that are struggling to score against a team who are very solid at the back, and it could be a long and difficult season for Vincenzo Italiano. And for Bologna, he was hoping obviously to make history, be in the Champions League. It was going to be one of these historic seasons, but it just really hasn't happened for them. He's only won just 1 of 10 games since he's taken charge there, so it's really bad. And they're not scoring too many goals either. They've only 9 goals scored in Serie A in 8 games, so they are not really finding the score sheet a lot. And as we saw, Aston Villa are able to do that in the Champions League. They did against Young Boys, and They scored an absolutely wonderful goal, which Alvaro, I think, predicted Duran might get on the score sheet against Bayern Munich. Yeah, so so this is a side who was capable of kind of being clinical against good opponents and stronger opponents. And Bologna, I don't think they will see. Aston Villa won't see them as a strong opponent. So Aston Villa deservedly are favourites here. 1.66 looks good value. They're unbeaten in 9 games. They've conceded just 1 goal in their last 3. They are hard to beat at the moment. It's Aston Villa's best league start in the Premier League since 1998. So this is just going to be a brilliant historic season for Aston Villa. On the other hand, like I was saying, it hasn't proved to be for Bologna yet. So Villa win over 2 goals and Ollie Watkins to score, I like as a combination here. That's 4. But on the screen, you can see Ollie Watkins to score anytime, because John Duran is obviously taking the plaudits, but Ollie Watkins has been fantastic recently. So I think he can continue that form.
Actually, my one is highlighting Onana to score, Konstantinos Villa to win and over corners, or perhaps Evan Martinez to save a penalty, because he's doing it so often, Alvaro.
Yeah, and when he saves a penalty, he lets the world know that he saved the penalty as well. Let's don't forget about that.
Could he be the best penalty saver ever as a goalkeeper? I don't remember anyone like him. Is amazing how many penalties he saves, how many important penalties on top of that.
You didn't watch the League of Ireland FAI Cup final back about 10 years ago, when the same goalkeeper scored 3 penalties in a row.
I missed that.
Other than that man that Ronan had the grace to mention, maybe yes. I don't know. I think that Diogo Costa from Porto is very good at that as well. And right now he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world, and part of it is because he saves penalties as well. And normally the penalties he saves are decisive in order to get a good result for his team, Argentina or Aston Villa. So yeah, I mean, could be one of the best, definitely penalty savers right now in history. I'm not too sure about that. I remember Diego Alves being very good.
Maybe Jorge Campos, no? He's saying
Jorge Campos, yeah, he was good as well.
Iker
Casillas wasn't a good penalty saver, but he saved very key penalties in Spanish history, I will say. But anyway, yeah, I mean, Aston Villa so far so good. I mean, they are unbeaten in 6 league games, and they have recorded 2 wins in the Champions League. Then McGinn this weekend came back after a month out, which is great in a side that doesn't rotate too much, because in the Premier League only Fulham rotates less than Aston Villa. But yeah, Aston Villa for me is the favourite here. Look, there is a note that I could think of both teams to score no, because Aston Villa kept Bayern scoreless here in this ground. And because Bologna in the Champions League, they are finding it very difficult to score. Even though Bologna have been better than their numbers suggest, maybe. But yeah, if you don't score goals in the Champions League, you are not going to get any too far, obviously. They had 17 attempts against Shakhtar, and still they remain scoreless. In Italy, they've got 9 points. And, you could say, okay, Aston Villa and Bologna, they could have similar levels, because both they qualified last season for their first Champions League in years, or maybe first ever in the case of Bologna. I don't remember now. But the truth is that if you look at their summer...
1982.
Villa since the 1980s. Bologna, long time first out time. Of this competition. First time, there you go. But Bologna lost in the summer Joshua Zirkzee, Calafiori, and even the manager Thiago Motta. And Aston Villa hasn't lost an important player. Douglas Luiz, well, they were happy to let him go, and they brought in someone who was even more expensive than Douglas Luiz. I'm talking about Onana. So, Aston Villa did the investment. Bologna lost key players, and you can really tell that you can really see how that translates into results, if that makes sense. So for me, in this game, both teams to score no, that could be a good one. Aston Villa winning, yeah, it's fine, but maybe it doesn't pay enough. Otherwise, I like Ollie Watkins to score in this game. I like it a lot. 2.3. Ollie Watkins has been really mobile and really good for Aston Villa so far.
2.75 is Aston Villa to win 2-0. That many people are telling us as well. Zirkzee not having also a great start in the Premier League, but also Bologna in trouble, drawing so many games in Serie A. Another debutant in this competition, Girona, playing at home again against Slovan Bratislava. We saw them losing a crazy game against Feyenoord with own goals, with penalties, with goals. It was a really fun game to watch under the rain with only few thousand supporters, like 5,000-7,000, very small ground, the one that Girona has to offer for the Champions League, and two unlucky defeats against PSG in the last minutes, against Feyenoord. So probably Slovan Bratislava is the worst team in the Champions League. Girona is not reliable, Alvaro. Of course, they are suffering a lot this season, but probably also they are not as bad as the numbers are showing us.
Yeah, but it's difficult for them because number one, they lost many players, and number two, they have had many injuries. And I know that sometimes we get comments in this show about injuries and the calendar not being important factors when it comes to games, but I really think that they are. And Girona is playing more games than they are used to. That has to be taken into consideration. And the squad this season has missed so many players, to the point that I think that Asprilla, Chigankov, Brian Hill, Abel Ruiz, Oriol Romeu have been out simultaneously this season. And at least 4 of these 5 will be starting games in an ideal scenario. Also, Dali Blind has been out, a very important defender for the team. And this weekend they lost against Real Sociedad, a Real Sociedad that away from home is not particularly strong or solid. So yeah, it's a little bit concerning, Girona so far. I have the suspicion that Girona are going to get better when it's too late, if that makes sense. And probably by March or April, they are going to start getting results, maybe before, maybe January. But when the new players adapt, when the injured players are back and all that. But, so far, Girona, they have lost 2 games in Montilivi already this season in the league, as many as last season. Then they shot themselves in the foot, really, against the Feyenoord with really big mistakes, scoring own goals and all that. So I'm going to go for the goals market because I believe that Girona is going to try to attack, but they don't have the firepower. So I'm going to go for the under this time. Considering that Slovan Bratislava is pretty poor as well when it comes to scoring, and Slovan has conceded a lot. But maybe in the first half, under 1.5 goals, 175 can be good. The bookies expect Girona to score many goals. This is my perception. Under 2.5 goals, pays 3. All right. And I do believe that Girona has in them the potential to score, despite the injuries. But in the first half, if you go for under 1.5 goals, that pays 175. And I think that there could be a little bit of an opportunity in there.
Slovan double chance in the first half. Konstantinos is telling us this pays really good, actually, 2.5. Ronan, I guess you are not very excited about this game.
I am not, but like Alvaro was saying earlier, I love predicting goals in matches. So I'm not sure it's going to be as low scoring a match as he is predicting, but I think that's mainly down to the fact that Girona do have so many injuries. So I think this is not a team that should be considered such a favourite in this match. Obviously, they should be favourite, but the odds that we're seeing on screen there, Slovan Bratislava 17, it just seems outlandish. I'm not saying for a second Slovan Bratislava are going to win here, but I think the odds are far too much in Girona's favour, considering all the injuries they have and considering the fact that they concede goals left, right and centre. They've only kept 1 clean sheet in their last 8 games. So Slovan Bratislava, they have a bit of a history on their side. They have a huge win in their history over a Spanish side. The 1969 Cup Winners' Cup final, beat Barcelona, if you remember that one. You've probably been watching. Yeah, probably been watching the highlights at the weekend before to warm up for this week's Champions League matches. But yeah, Slovan domestically, they've been fantastic. They're top of the Slovak league. They've only lost 3 times this season, and 2 of those matches obviously been in the Champions League. They've played 22 games in all competitions, so they've had a very busy season. But that also means that they're into routines. They have all the systems together. They know exactly how each other plays. So I think, like I was saying, with the Slovan 17 looks high, but if you want to Asian handicap that, Slovan Asian handicap +2, I think there could be good value in there, 2.02, because I think they could maybe keep it a bit closer than the bookies expect. But I also think because Girona are weak at the back and Slovan might get on the score sheet, total goals over 3.25 could be an option here, and both teams to score yes, 2.110, which is on the screen there.
Carl Frixen is also going for Asian handicap plus 1.5 for Bratislava, 2.4. The attendance was only 8,752 people attending the Girona Feyenoord due to the stadium not being ready for the Champions League. Let's see, both teams are looking for the first points in this Champions League. Juventus Stuttgart is the next one, really interesting one. Juventus doing great in the Champions League, great wins against PSV, against Leipzig, with Conceição scoring a beautiful goal when they were down to 10 men. In Serie A, they were super lucky. They were the old classic Juventus beating Lazio with an own goal after playing the whole game against 10 men, and they won it in the last minutes. And Stuttgart, Ronan, 4-0. They conceded all the goals in the last part of the game. We expected both in the score sheet, also Stuttgart to score some goals. They had a couple of chances, but yeah, they really lost decent against Bayern.
Yeah, they lost the plot, I think, at times against Bayern. And that's the Bayern that we've been kind of waiting to show up and kind of demolish a top quality side, because, like I said earlier, you can beat the Holstein Kiels all you want, but you need to beat teams like Stuttgart. And as we saw from Stuttgart's game against Real Madrid earlier this season, they can be a force in Europe and maybe a force in Germany. But yeah, it just didn't go right for them at the weekend, and they're on a kind of disappointing a disappointing away run, and a disappointing run even in all venues. They've only won 2 away games this season, and one of those was in the German Cup, which is always against lower opposition. So yeah, they haven't been great on the road this season. And then, like I was saying for the previous game, the odds look great for Juventus to win this one. Juventus, on the other hand, they're unbeaten in 16 games in all competitions, and I think Thiago Motta is trying to make a bit of history for himself here. Only 2 Juventus managers have won their first 3 games in the Champions League before, Lippi and Capello. So Thiago Motta can add his name to that, and I think he will here, because Stuttgart, they're very disappointing on the road, and they're very disappointing against Italian teams in Europe. They've only won once in 11 games against Italian teams. They've never actually played Juventus before in European competition, because Stuttgart aren't usually a team who are playing in the top level of European competition. So this match here could be a wake-up call for them. The only thing is Stuttgart do tend to score goals, so they could get on the score sheet and get themselves something from this game. Both teams to score yes is a good option here, 1.91 as you see there. I think Stuttgart, they're so open at the back, they like attacking, they have great attacking talent, they tend to score, but it's hard to look past those, what we're being given for Juventus to win this match. It just looks too good to turn up Juventus or turn down Juventus at home against the Stuttgart team who are struggling.
The last game they won was this 5-1 against Dortmund. Genep is telling us that Stuttgart was very underwhelming lately, for instance, in the Champions League at home against Sparta Prague, Alvaro.
Yeah, they produced 11 shots on target against them, and they just managed a draw. Obviously, having lost Girassi this summer is a massive blow. Then they have conceded a crazy amount of goals in the league, in the Bundesliga, an average of 2 goals per game. So from all the German sides in the Champions League, they are the most underwhelming. They are 10th in the Bundesliga. It's not that they are a bad side, because I remember them playing against Real Madrid, and I was thinking, yeah, they are good, but they were missing that competitive edge. Real Madrid was stronger in both boxes, and that was enough to beat them. Whereas Juventus, I'm going to say something. Is it acceptable that we like Juventus? I mean, I feel I feel bad about that, because, you know, Juve has always been like everybody's nemesis and all that. And in Italy, you know, everyone is against Juve. And personally, Juventus is not my team in Italy. I've got some other affiliations. But, you know, Juventus so far with Thiago Motta, they are good. And the truth is that they are one of the surprises of the season. On top of that, defensively, they have been very good. They're trying to play nice football. Sometimes the passing patterns are very nice. In the Champions League, they are getting the job done very well. Against Leipzig, they won when they were reduced to 10 men, because I remember that Di Gregorio, the goalkeeper, was sent off as well. But, they are getting the job. And Blahovic is scoring goals. I mean, he has scored 7 this season, which is a good booty, I would say. 5 more than the second best striker of Juventus, or second best scorer of Juventus this season, who is Conceição. So there is a little bit of dependence on the Serbian striker, who must be fresh because he didn't play for Serbia in the international break. Blahovic to score, by the way, 2.3. It's decent, it's good, especially at home. A clean sheet for Juventus, which will contradict a little bit one of Ronan's tips, I will say, because he went for both teams to score, but clean sheets for Juventus, 280, shouldn't be overlooked, at least because Juve has managed to produce plenty of clean sheets this season. But for me, plain and simple, this time, I'm going to go for Juventus to win. I'm very surprised about their start in the Champions League, and I do believe that they are capable of getting 3 more points.
Well, they conceded only in 1 game in Serie A against Cagliari, but in both Champions League games. Dusan Vlahovic, anytime scorer, also for Frixen. He found it at 2.48. Marci cannot trust Stuttgart when they play away, and Filosofia also sees both teams scoring. This is a good game, actually. Juventus-Stuttgart, also a good game in the Parc des Princes. PSG-PSV, top of the French league, top of the Dutch league. There is sometimes a fight between which league is the best 5, top 5, including the Portuguese one. Well, now we have a fight between these 2 teams. PSG to win is 1.5. I would take these odds every time, every day, and they have to bounce back after that really bad game at the Emirates against Arsenal. In the league, they beat Strasbourg 4-2 at the weekend, with Barcola again scoring. And they have now a really tough schedule, Álvaro, and we are going to see the real level of this new PSG, because they have this PSV, which is not easy, Olympique Marseille, Lens, and then Atlético de Madrid.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think that, both sides, they are commanding in their leagues, more or less. PSV and Eindhoven especially, they got 27 points, which is all the best possible tally, because they played 9 games, they got 9 wins, and then PSV, they lost to Juve in the first game, 3-1. PSV managed to score a goal when Juventus had already won it, and then they drew with the Sporting Club Portugal at home, which is good, I think. But for this game, I will say that Paris is the favorite. Of course, footballers like Luc de Jong, who is the top scorer of PSV so far this season, they will have to control a footballer like this, especially in the box, just trying to limit the amount of crosses that PSV will put. But PSG is the favorite for me. I know that in the Champions League, they got only 3 points out of 6, and they were unconvincing against Girona when they won it. A mistake from Gazzaniga was the only thing that unleveled the game against Girona. And then against Arsenal, Luis Enrique alluded to the duels lost to explain the defeat against the Gunners. Paris is these days about energy, about youth, about keeping the ball and trying to attack, and hopefully be as less rigid as possible under a manager like Luis Enrique that sometimes puts the system above the players' creativity. And that is something that I've got a few problems to deal with, because I think that makes Luis Enrique's side sometimes very good from the tactical point of view, but then a little bit timid. But, look at Paris Saint-Germain, only one stat. They have lost only 1 of their last 37 group stage home games in the Champions League. This is something to take into consideration. Like Bayern, like Manchester City, like Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain has been very reliable at home lately in the group stage of the Champions League. So I'm going to go for Paris Saint-Germain to win, 148, because they want to and because they need to as well. They only got 3 points out of 6. Otherwise, Asian handicap -1 for Paris would be my favorite here. I think the money is decent. -1 for Paris, 170.
And some other people, Ronan, are adding both teams to score or a high scoring game in the mix to make the odds more juicy.
Yeah, like Cal's comment there that we see on the screen, Paris Saint-Germain winning over 3.5 goals, 270 looks good, because I think this could be a match there are lots of goals in, because these are teams that are used to, at least domestically, scoring lots of goals. PSV have won every single game, 9 wins from nine games in the Dutch league, so they are flying in the Dutch league, and they're used to scoring, and they're a team that should be confident going to France to play PSG. But PSG, obviously, like Alvaro said, they're much too strong. They mightn't have Kolo Muani because of an ankle injury, but they still, their strike force is still too good. They're still going to score too many goals, and they tend to score. What I noticed looking this one, they tend to score a lot of their goals in the second half. 17 of their 25 goals in Ligue 1 so far this season have come in the second half. Obviously, that goal against Girona was in the second half in the 90th minute. So, yeah, this is a team who tend to score a lot of second half game goals, and I think that could be the difference here, because PSV are missing key midfielders. Veerman and Schouten are both missing from midfield for them, and those are two huge absences. So I think PSG will control this match, and by the time that PSV kind of run out of steam in the second half, they might be able to rack up the scoreline and make it that kind of game where it is over 3.5 total goals in this match. But I like the look of total second half goals over 1.75. That's one of my tips for this one, 1.87. I think that looks good, because I think there should be plenty of goals in the second half. But as well as that, PSG to win the second half, because PSG to win is just around 150. So PSG to win the second half is a good bit better than that at 1.84.
Okay, so we kind of agree that we are going to see goals in the Parc des Princes. Let's see if PSG are able to bounce back after that ugly defeat against Arsenal. Full trust on the board on Luis Enrique. Apparently his contract is going to be extended, and we are only in October, so imagine if they have full trust in the Spanish manager. Two more games, Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, one of the best games we are going to see in this match day. Of course, last season final, but we have two different teams, I would say, both with some doubts. Real Madrid without Toni Kroos, as we all know, and with Mbappe, but the team is struggling. They are conceding so many chances. Courtois is one of the best of the team. Mbappe and Vinicius, yes, scored at the weekend, and this is positive, but it looks like they are not connecting that well, especially with the midfield. And Dortmund also suffered to beat San Pauli. Good news, Guirassy again in the score sheet, but Ronan, also some doubts when they are traveling. For instance, lost in Berlin before the break, but in the Champions League so far, 10 goals scored, one of the leader of this competition, thanks to goal average.
Yeah, they have struggled sometimes on the road, and I think that kind of ties into the news that's coming out, or the report that's coming out, that Borussia Dortmund won't train in the stadium because they don't want anyone to see their tactics. Nuri Sahin is trying to hide his tactics, but if you've watched any Borussia Dortmund over the last 10 years, you'll know their tactics is just try and score, and who cares what happens at the back. That tends to be Borussia Dortmund's manifesto for playing football, which makes for entertaining games, and it has so far in the Champions League, a 7-1 win. It's hard to look past that, but the hero of that match is out at Adeyemi. He's obviously out until next month, so Guirassy, more weight is going to be on his shoulders, but so far so good for him since he moved from Stuttgart, because he has been able to carry that burden. He's been scoring lots of goals. He's 7 games, 7 goals for Borussia Dortmund. So Mbappe versus Guirassy will be an interesting one, because Mbappe obviously has 8 goals in 12 games. So Guirassy versus Mbappe will be an interesting tactical battle. So that's why I'm looking at both of them to score in this match. So anytime score, I know Alvaro is interested in that one as well for Kylian Mbappe. That looks tasty to me, but Guirassy, anytime score looks even tastier. 3.5. I know he's been in an away match, but 3.5 for Guirassy to score in any match looks too good to turn down, because he just tends to score a lot of goals at the moment, and he is Borussia Dortmund's main man. Obviously, they with Adeyemi missing out, they will maybe turn to Jamie Bynoe-Gittens, and a lot of English audiences will be looking at Borussia Dortmund's next English kind of superstar to see what he's made of. He kind of showed glimpses of it in the earlier matches in the competition. So Bellingham versus Gittins, that'll be another narrative around this one. But yeah, I think this one is just going to be a big high scoring match. Both teams to score, yes, looks good here, 1.63. But my tip for this is just total goals. My main one is total goals over 3.25, because Dortmund have had 3 or more total goals in their last 7 games in every competition. They just score goals, they just concede goals. This is what I say every week on the Bundesliga show. Just goals. Everything is total goals.
And Real Madrid are struggling a lot defending. Ancelotti tried a 3-man defense or 5, depends on if the team is attacking or defending. It didn't work, Álvaro, and Real Madrid have a massive week ahead of them.
Oh yeah, they do, of course. I think that this is a very important week because number one, in the Champions League, they have to make amendments for what happened at Lille, and then they are playing against Barcelona. And if Barcelona beats them at Santiago Bernabéu, then they will take a concerning lead. But anyway, I think that Real Madrid, the best thing you can say about them is that despite how slowly they are playing, because it's true that Real Madrid looks slow at times, they are grinding out the results in the league. They haven't lost the league yet, despite Barcelona's super start. And in the Champions League, this format gives you the chance to recover from a defeat. This is the difference with the previous format. So it's all fine, but it's time as well for Real Madrid to step up and raise their level a little bit, because this week is difficult. The good thing for Real Madrid is that they've got a couple of strikers, Mbappe and Vinicius. We know who they are. We know how good they are. They can switch on and switch off whenever, irrespective of the speed of the game, the quality of the game, irrespective of how good and bad or bad they are playing. Mbappe and Vinicius can switch on and off whenever they want. And it looks like they are gone. It looks like they are not having a good game. And suddenly they do the right run and they get a chance and they score. That's why Mbappe to score or Vinicius to score in the Champions League at home is, in my opinion, always a good bet to consider, at least. And from both of them, Vinicius to score right now gives you more money. It pays around 2.4, whereas Mbappe to score is 1.83. I could be happy with either of them, but I will wait as well maybe for the lineup to see, or maybe to the game to start, just to see who plays on the left and who plays on central positions, that may change a little bit the thing. I will also consider who took the last penalty for Real Madrid, because it looks like Mbappe and Vinicius are rotating in the penalties. So I don't remember who is the next one to take or who should be taking it, but check it out, please, because that can be interesting as well to know ahead of a possible betting about Mbappe or Vinicius scoring. When it comes to Dortmund, again, German sides are doing okay in the Champions League. All of them but Stuttgart are doing well. They won in the weekend. Stuttgart didn't, but play against Bayern as well. Dortmund tends to concede a lot of goals, 12 conceded in the Bundesliga, but they also score a lot of goals. So, something like one of their strikers scoring can be interesting, but, I would prefer to back the individual markets of Real Madrid. I'm going to go for the following, aside of the individual market. Real Madrid to win the second half, 180. That would be my bet.
A classic from Álvaro. Someone was saying, Konstantinos, Dortmund double chance at the halftime. This pays 1.9 if there is a draw or an away win in the first half, since Real Madrid struggle a lot. And then Fricksen is also throwing the name of Bellingham. It's true that Real Madrid still needs to accommodate Bellingham. 0 goals scored. He looks a bit frustrated. Last season he was playing closer to the goal. Now he's another midfielder, and he's not playing as good as last season, and for sure he's not scoring as much as last season.
And I would like to add another name, Dani Carvajal. He's not available. He won't be available for a year. And I think Dani Carvajal was setting the competitive tone of Real Madrid. I really want to see how they are going to defend on the right without Dani Carvajal. Because even in the Champions League final, Dani Carvajal not only scored, but in the first half, he did a couple of really important runs to prevent Borussia from scoring a goal in the Champions League final. For me, it's still to be seen whether Lucas Vázquez can keep a good level in a long term as a right back. Occasionally, he has done it very well. In the long run, for me, that's a question, really.
I don't think so as well. I don't think so. And the last game in Austria, Sturm Graz Sporting, top of the Portuguese league. Sporting beat Lille, drew with PSV, so doing great in this Champions League, but their schedule gets tougher. Man City and Arsenal are next, so they should be looking at a win here in Graz, Álvaro.
I think so, yeah. Let's see how it goes, of course. You never know. But the Sporting Club de Portugal is the favorite. And rightly so, because Sturm Graz... Sorry?
Two favorite, maybe 1.4 for a team like Sporting. Away.
Yeah. That's why I'm not going to go for that market, because I think that if the money was 1.8, 1.65, I will consider it. It's also a team that has collected 24 points in the league already, which is all the available points, and they've got a bigger goal difference than points collected, which is something that I really like. I'm a little bit of a freak with these things, and I do believe that is a sign of good health when your goal difference is better even than your point tally. And Sporting Club de Portugal in the Champions League, they are also doing well, 4 points. Gyökeres scored against Sturm Graz, by the way, last season in both games. That was in the Europa League, and scored against Sturm Graz. So that's why I'm going to go for Gyökeres to be the first scorer in this game. I know from all the markets I have picked in this show, this is the most speculative one, but it tends to happen. So Gyökeres to be the first scorer in this game, 375, is something that I really like. And when it comes to Sturm Graz, look, they lost to Bruges, they lost to Brest. Those were defeats that could have been avoided because they will find the stronger opposition along the way very soon. It's true that they top their league. Then in the Austrian league, one of their strikers, Mika Berth, is the top scorer as well with 7 goals. But still, I think that the Sporting Club de Portugal is the favorite. The full-time market for me is a little bit low to back them. So plain and simple, if I use my money somewhere, I will put it in Gyökeres. I will trust the Swedish striker to score.
It looks very bad, Ronan, when you lose the first 2 games against Bruges and Brest, like Sturm Graz.
Yeah, if you lost the third game to Sporting, I think your Champions League campaign is maybe over at that stage, because it's only going to get worse from here, like Alvaro said. So when they play the elite of Europe, it's going to be a very tricky circumstance for them. But I think I agree with you, Alvaro, to say that Sporting look too favoured for this one. You would imagine they will win, obviously, but looking at what happened last year, Alvaro mentioned it, that Gyökeres scored in both matches, but the match in Graz, the home game for Sturm Graz in the Europa League was only a 2-1 win for Sporting, so it was a narrow win in the end. So it wasn't like they came to Austria and they ran riot. And Sturm Graz, on the other hand, they've actually been very good domestically. They won 5-2 at the weekend, and they won 5-0 against RB Salzburg in the match before that, and the match before the international break. So they are scoring a lot of goals domestically, 2.4 goals per game they're scoring. So this is a team who aren't afraid of scoring goals and will be able to score goals. We saw them obviously score one away at Brest in the first game in the Champions League. So I think that Sporting won't have it perhaps as easy as they expect. We saw that again in the Cup in Portugal at the weekend. They needed a 94th minute winner to win against the second division side, to win 2-1 at the weekend. So I think it could be closer maybe than the bookies are expecting. But it is a match which I don't think a lot of people are going to be tuning in for, if we all agree. I think the interest will be elsewhere. So the kind of the most evident value for me is that Sturm Graz can keep it close. So Sturm Graz Asian handicap plus 1.5 is my tip for this one.
Girona, Slovan Bratislava, and Sturm Graz Sporting Lisbon, I don't think are going to be really followed. But we have many options here. Udo Diri or Ernest is telling us Sporting to score. In the second half, Sporting over 1.5 goals at halftime. or Sporting halftime and full time. For Ian, also Carl Frixen is going with your tips, Ronan. Well, remember that we are now also on Discord, another channel where you can follow and tune Oddspedia, and you can participate in our tipster competition since we are you are participating in the show, giving us your tips. You can post your tips for free on our website, and you will have the chance to win cash prizes monthly, yearly, and remember also that we have now a Premier League and NFL competition. So good luck. We had a very successful weekend, or our tipsters had it, with international ACA, with some local ACAs, including Alvaro. For instance, Ronan was just 1 goal away to nail it, unfortunately. So let's try our best once again. Ronan, your safe bet?
My safe bet is Aston Villa Asian handicap -1/4. That's 1.45.
Alvaro?
Real Madrid to win, 149.
Oh, I don't see this very safe. I have to say.
You'll be fine. You'll be
I don't
fine.
see this safe at all. And ACA, Alvaro?
Arsenal to score in both halves, Paris Saint-Germain to win, Real Madrid to win the second half, 3.99.
There you go. Ronan?
Yeah, I'm going for a treble, just 3 straight wins. So it's Monaco to win, Aston Villa to win, and Juventus to win for 4.46.
Oh, I like that one. Good one. Thank you, Ronan. Thank you, Alvaro. Thanks, everyone, for watching. You have in the channel another video later on for the games on Wednesday. Remember, we cover everything here. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.